Bubbleverse 10 Learning Lessons. And 1. This chapter beta read by Lady Columbine of Mistle.on, DAN 2. Many apologies for the long dry spell. I'm going to try to get back into the habit of posting chapters for my Reddit stories. Dear Saduk, Fuika and myself were all in the same area, not to mention Pograk and his dad. Security had been dialed up to the highest level. I knew that drones flying invisibly overhead were scanning the sky and land, out to the horizon with every passive sensor known to mankind, including a few that had only become possible due to our partnership with the Bubblers. Anti-air missiles, dug in around the perimeter of the college, were one trigger twitch away from launch, should any hostile vehicle or projectile on their screens. Armored vehicles were likewise poised to roar on sight and spirit us to safety, should a threat appear. And that wasn't even counting the 24 armed guards discreetly flanking us. Over and above that, I was wearing discreet armor under my uniform. And the heat suits of our guests were subtly armored as well. I didn't think anyone was going to come in with enough force to overwhelm the protective measures, just so they could kidnap or kill a few aliens. But I wasn't being paid to make those sorts of decisions, thank God. I was just there to be one half of the face of the Bubbler-Human Alliance. In fact, the most problematic threat to the Bubblers had been the Tanarak, and with their equal above all applying for membership in our alliance, that was also a fading memory. We knew damn well why they buried the hatchet with the Bubblers, or rather they tossed it into the nearest black hole. Humanity has hell zoners in their parlance. Anyway, we're with the big kids on the block, and the Bubblers were sitting pretty as our ally. The Tanarak wanted in on that. So for the first time in their long and contentious history, they were being forced to play fair. They still weren't in Nice, but they were definitely doing their best, which was why we were giving them the benefit of the doubt. Despite being encased in a heat suit within an environment that would obliterate her in an instant, Fuika was in her element. Clasping Pograk's paw in her lower left tentacle and pulling him ahead of the rest of us, she used her other 3 to indicate points of interest around the college. That's the recreation hall, and the main auditorium, and the swimming pool. I go there to relax sometimes. Do you swim, Pograk? I can swim. The heir to the equal above all, replied warily. But surely the local temperature does not support swimmable liquids. That depends on your definition of swimmable, Saduk murmured. With a certain amount of amusement, I shared it, while the equal above all either didn't get the joke or thought it wasn't funny. Fuika didn't seem to hear him, but she had an "Oh, not the ones we're used to. But you would have learned about dihydrogen monoxide in your lessons about Earth, right?" "I have learned about it, yes." Pograk seemed unwilling to volunteer anything more about his education. I got the distinct impression that the further from his comfort zone he got, the less adventurous he was. Which was a total 180 from Fuika's attitude. Saduk was somewhat more conservative than his daughter, but even he liked to put his best tentacle forward. Aren't the polar caps of this planet composed of it? Yes, they are. Fuika agreed with a cheerful flip of her tentacles. That area's a lot colder than here, relatively speaking. I suppressed a snore. Thwicka had really gone native now, talking about the polar ice caps as being cold, when they'd still be a raging inferno too. At this latitude, it melts and stays liquid most of the year. Sometimes, it even evaporates. Molten rock. Pograk peered at the ground, as though worried about lava bubbling up from the ground. Is it common? And why are you talking about it anyway? Oh, it's very common. Thwicka indicated a fluffy white cloud. Something in the cumulus family was my best guess. You see that up there? That's the vapor. When enough of it clumps together, it rains liquid dihydrogen monoxide in great big drops. I like splashing in the puddles and watching it run down my faceplate. Not doing thing I am never, ever telling her mother. Saduk murmured to me. I cleared my throat and raised my voice a little. Thwicka, I hope you're being careful about lightning. We haven't actually tested your suit against that kind of power overload. So, while it's okay to play in the rain, be careful, okay? Sadok twisted his body toward me, his features emulating a wide-eyed expression. Genitors, I never even thought about that. I do not know this. Lightning. The equal above all eyed us both, as though suspecting some kind of ongoing prank. Dick Dunning were Bonmuti spindle bemay. You're the Tuesday. What is it, and how is it more dangerous than bathing in molten rock that falls from the sky? Just from the wording, I got the impression that he was now looking for an excuse to back out of this whole endeavor. Oh. I tried to recall my high school physics. Essentially, when there are a lot of clouds traveling over the land, an electrical potential builds up between one and the other. With me so far, I know of electrical potentials and of sparks, he confirmed. Are these heat suits so fragile that a mere spark will disable them? A spark? No. I shook my head firmly. But lightning, that's not just a spark. At some point, the potential builds up to a level where it discharges via whatever high point it has access to. Like a building or a tree. I gave Thwicka a serious look, or a bubbler playing in the rain. I am always careful, she said, a serious tone in her voice. If I hear thunder, I do not go out. And I only play in the puddles in the main courtyard. You have not explained how dangerous this lightning is, insisted the equal above all. Will it harm a human? Oh yeah, I said. About 20,000 people are struck by lightning every year, and 2,000 of those die. The other 90% don't usually get off easily. Even if it doesn't kill them, it can do a lot of damage. The equal above all lifted his head and gave the innocent cloud a glare of extreme suspicion. And you live upon this planet willingly? He asked. Where even standing under the open sky can kill you. Saduk let out a very human-style snicker. I asked that question myself a lot, in the early days, he confided. I would suggest you look up the following terms. Iggy, all storms, hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes, tsunamis, heat stroking, and skin cancer. Also, hang gliding, windsurfing, skydiving, spelunking, and whitewater rafting got, and finally, lions, tigers, bears, hippopotamus, rhinoceros, great white shark, alligator, crocodile, black mamba, western desert taipan, water moccasin, coralocus, snake, king cobra, Dottie. It might give you some insight into the human mindset and why they seem to be avid risk-takers compared to everyone else. Not all of us, I protested, but my heart wasn't in it. Saduk eyed me askance. Enough to count. Fair point. I will do that, affirmed the equal above all. I was fairly sure I could see the HUD flickering in his heat suit as he stored those words and phrases away for later. But what does all this have to do with swimming? Well, you see, Thweka chirped as we topped the small rise next to the pool. Dihydrogen monoxide, or what they call water here, is what humans swim in. The college was closed for vacation time and to construct Pograk's cryo habitat, so the pool was empty of people, the water's surface smooth and pristine. Hold this for me, please, Father. Slipping her sash off over the top of her brain case, she held it out to Saduk. Certainly. I had to give it to him. He'd only just learned that Thweka was swimming regularly in the last week or so, and he was adjusting with laudable speed to the concept. Now, he accepted the sash, as though this was a regular thing for him. It appeared that neither the equal above all, nor Pograk, had connected what she was saying to what she was doing. Because when she slipped into the water, making barely a ripple as she did so, they both gasped in shock and surprise. Although she'd been born light years from the nearest liquid water, and had seen barely any in person before coming to Earth, she had adapted to its density and incompressibility with commendable ease. All 8 tentacles moving in a hypnotic rhythm, she undulated across the bottom of the pool until she reached the far side, then turned and came back again. A question, my progenitor, Pograk ventured. Yes, my offspring. The equal above all did not take his eyes from Thweka's swimming form for an instant. Will I be required to submerge myself in molten lava as well? Oh, I didn't wait till Icha to do that, Saduk interjected. To my practiced eye, he was deriving far too much amusement from the situation. It was all her own idea. She enjoys swimming, apparently. Says it's very restful. It does not look restful. Pograk's tone was firm. It looks ridiculously dangerous. Your offspring, declared the equal above all, may very well be insane. Thweka surfaced almost at our feet and scrambled out of the pool. Saduk and I reached down to help her out, while Pograk and his father hastily stepped back out of the way of flying droplets, especially when she wriggled her tentacles to get rid of extra water. Well, if my girl is insane, it's a good kind of insane, Saduk informed them, handing the sash back to her. I met Lieutenant Hernandez here when she volunteered to go on a mission to investigate the interior of a gas giant. Some might consider that insane as well. I still think you and the rest of the crew of the High Distant Knowledge were more nuts than we were. That day, I riposted with a grin. I mean, taking that ship as close to the sun as you did, before you got hold of our tech. One solar flare, and you would have been toast. Literally. Don't remind me. Sadu crippled his tentacles in the bubbler equivalent of a shudder. I guess I've always been a thrill-seeker, but Trika just leaves me in her. You are all insane. The equal above all decided. I can understand and accept the chance of dying in battle. But why you take the needless risks you do is beyond me. Sadu curled one tentacle in a gesture analogous to an eyebrow raise. Or perhaps it was his version of the hand gesture that accompanied "Comet me, bro Wandor." So you're pulling Pograk out of the program, then? He only just got here. The unspoken challenge hung in the air between them. I watched as the equal above all gritted his teeth, teetering on the knife edge of a decision. He wanting to say yes. It was evident to all. But his pride would not let him utter the word, and thus implicitly accept that a bubbler was braver than a tannerer. No, he ground out, clenching his clawed paws tightly inside the gloves of his heat suit. Pograk stays. My offspring will not be denied the benefits being granted to yours, no matter the danger. But I expect him back, alive and well, at the end of the time period. I'm totally on it, Fricka assured him. I'll teach him everything I know about Earth. The equal above all turned his speaker volume down, but I still heard him mutter, "That is what concerns me." But it's several days later on Tripograk. It's your first day of class here on Earth. Thwika enthused, perambulating alongside Pograk. He noticed that she was wearing the colored tentacle socks over her heat suit. Aren't you excited? I am not here to be excited, he replied curtly. Why are you wearing the tentacle socks? While you are wearing your heat suit, they are superfluous to the extreme. But they are pretty, she explained carefully, as if to an infant. And I like them. You are immature and vain, he said dismissively. It is no wonder your progenitor exiled you to this planet. Exiled. She laughed out loud, her upper tentacles echoing the sound with motion. Is what your dad told you? I was gassed if I wanted to come study here. And I said, yes, I'm having fun here. And I've made many friends among the humans. I've also learned so much. Just the intricacies of high-temperature plant biology are utterly fascinating. She pointed at a green thing that Pograk had taken for some kind of alien statuary. Did you know all plants live on energy from the sun? They use chemical reactions to do it. There's a living thing. Pograk was taken aback. He peered more closely at it, trying to discern whether it was about to stalk and attack them. His belated study of the dangers inherent in merely existing on Earth had left him with a healthy dose of paranoia, on top of the pre-existing unease. There were creatures that could mimic other creatures, and some that could change color to match their surroundings. Was this one of those? Why do they not pen it in? Is it not a danger? That's funny. Thwika giggled. Plants don't usually move on their own, Pograk, and it's not dangerous, unless it grew a lot taller. And then died and fell on you. Come on, we don't want to be late. Very well. As they moved on, he looked back at the two cryo-habitats that had been built side by side. I still think your habitat is larger than mine. She gestured exasperation with her tentacles. I already told you why that is. You don't need quite as much insulation to keep yours at a comfortable living temperature. Because your average is a little bit closer to the local environment than inside they're the same size. If you'd come over for a visit when I invited you to, you'd see that. I am the offspring of the equal above all, he replied stiffly. I am not to be summoned like a lowly worker. Thwicka looked at him closely. Are you absolutely certain that Tanarek possess no excretory orifices? Extremely, he snapped, irritated by her inane question. Why? Well, because if you had one, your head would be firmly lodged up inside it. Her tentacles set at a disdainful angle which should by rights have started freezing the air around them. She perambulated onward. By the time we reached the main building, I had decided that staying mad at Pograk for being Jay Pograk was a waste of my time and energy. It was better, I figured, to introduce him to my friend. He'd come all this way to Earth, after all, so meeting new people was absolutely essential. I wouldn't know 1/8 of what I did about Earth culture without my circle of friends to explain what was going on. Or should I say, Earth cultures. So many cultures. I spotted a familiar head of straight black hair in close proximity to one flaring all the colors of the rainbow. Another thing I would miss once I left Earth. Jess, I called, waving my tentacles. Eva, I'm back. Heads turned, and I saw several faces light up with smiles, while others took on puzzled expressions. I wasn't so surprised at this. The news of Pograk joining the student body had probably been kept quiet for the time being. It would get out now, of course, but not before he'd had the chance to meet them in person. My friends came to meet me, surging forward in a tide of humanity. And yes, I knew what a tide that caused Pograk to say something sharp in Tanarek. Not that I really blamed him, and brace himself for the assaults. They stopped short, of course, but crowded around the both of us. Eva came down onto one knee and gave me a hug, which of course I returned. Hugs are something which I will always enjoy. I've missed you, Thwicka. I love your tentacle socks. You never said you'd be bringing back a itinerary. I thought you guys were at war or something. Oh, we've never been at war, I said, with an airy flip of a spare tentacle. The Tanarak, under the old Commander Prime, Ultra, kept on attacking our ships and trying to find our home planet. But it was never actually war. Just Tanarak being Tanara. Anyway, that's all stopped now. The new guy in charge is called the Equal Above All, and this is his son, Pograk. By right. Pograk, this is Eva, and Jess, and Francis, and Brad, and Julia, and you know what? You guys can introduce yourselves. Just, be nice. He's new here, and the way you guys do stuff is still a bit strange to him. Hey, dude. Francis, by way of being one of my first friends, had evidently decided that he was going to be humanity's ambassador to the Tanara. The name's Francis. Pleased to meet you. Do you shake hands? He extended his own hand in greeting. My name is not Dude. At Pograk's harsh tone, I wanted to put a tentacle over my eyes and slap him with another one at the same time. It is bad enough that I am forced to abbreviate my name to a mere Pograk in order to allow you to pronounce it, but I will not accept any other. Sure thing, ye Pograt, Brad retorted. You should maybe listen to Thwicka a bit more. She's cool. She knows what's going on. It is, Pograko. The volume on his speakers went up by several notches. What? Gabizet? Asked someone else in a mocking tone. Pongbat. No, I think it was Putbag. Sure it wasn't Pissburg. Pugbrad. I could see Pograk gathering himself for another shout, and raised my tentacles commandingly. Everyone, what is this? I thought we were all civilized people here. I thought I asked you to be nice to my friend. Tanarak are Yalis to my people now. And Pograk, Francis was trying to be friendly. He calls everyone dude. Even me, sometimes. It's true. Francis took a deep breath. Sorry, Pograk. Didn't mean to come across like I was giving you a different name. He discreetly elbowed Brad. Dude, you got something to say. Brad grimaced, probably because he disliked being put on the spot. Yeah, sorry, Pograk, he mumbled. Your name's important to you. I get that. Pograk didn't speak for a moment, glancing between me and my friends, as the others mumbled their apologies as well. I gave him a nudge with one of my tentacles. Hey, if Francis could do it, so could I. Your turn, I said, as quietly as I could. He stopped, then started again. I reacted badly. You did not mean harm. I should not have raised my volume. I will try to understand more as I go on. Hey, mistakes were made. I saw Francis carefully choose not to call him dude again. So anyway, what games do you like? Thwicka kicks ass every week in the chess club. You any good at that? Pograk glanced at me, and I made a little we-go-on gesture with my tentacles. This was his first conversation with a human, in the wild as it were, and I wanted to see where it went. I do not think chess is a good game for me, he said at last. I suddenly figured out why. I'd probably always be ahead of him in ranking, not something his dad would approve of. Are there other games? Francis grinned. Oh, we've got lots. What are your interests? Maybe we can narrow something down. As a Tanarak, Pograk didn't have the same translucent skin that we have, but I was pretty sure he was thinking hard at that moment. Tanarak have a long and glorious martial culture, he said at last. My father is a great warrior and leader of warriors. The human martial culture was pretty impressive too, as I'd found out in my history lessons, and my reading, and the movies I'd watched. But I didn't interrupt. He'd find out soon enough. Really? Francis's grin widened. I don't play chess, but I'm a member in good standing of the Tabletop Wargaming Society. How does that sound to you? Pograk's head came up. War. Gaming? He asked. I am interested. Tell me more. I beamed as they moved off together, still talking. If I wasn't much mistaken, Pograk had just made his first human friend. I was so proud of him. Oh,